It was almost 4 months ago, back in March, that Ridgid announced 23 new tools for 2023, and they're all part of their 18-volt lineup. They have some exciting tools, but the one that caught my eye the most was this right here, the 18-volt 6.5-inch brushless track saw. So today we're going to unbox this and put it to the test so you can see if it's right for you. All right, it does come with one clamp. You may want two, but one is definitely a good start. Comes with the 6.5-inch blade right here. Has 40 carbide teeth for general use. And here is the saw. All right, this is exciting. So we have two different tracks. So some people call them rails, some people call them tracks. I'll just refer to them as tracks right now, because that's what Ridgid refers to them as. So yeah, I'm excited. After the first cut, it will take off a little sliver of this right here, so that way you can get right up next to the mark that you're trying to start at or finish at. All right, so one of the very first things we're going to want to do is put the blade in. So let's see how that works. So there's this tag that I just took off. So it's just telling you to cut the rubber strip before the first cut. So you basically do a test run with it and you get it dialed right in to the track, the saw to the track. So I was just checking to see if there's onboard tool storage, and yes, we have two different wrenches right there. So right now this is locked in the middle position, so that way you have access to loosen that, and we can feed the blade up inside there. All right, we're going to loosen this up right here. Go ahead and put the blade on so that feeds up through there. So right there is a spindle lock. So I'm going to, there we go, push it down, and now get nice and snug. There, we're good to go. So you can see we have a couple different settings. The wrench right there shows for the work we just did. And then it looks like the saw, that is for doing the work, the cutting. All right, that gives it the free range of motion right there. So you can see the different numbers on here. This is very similar to some other saws, the way that it works. So you have, when you're on the tracks right there, that's the measurement you're going to use. I really don't see too many people using this without the tracks. And the orange is without the rails or the tracks. So if you want to go to 3/4 of an inch, right there, that's dialed in right at 3/4. When you push that down, that only goes to 3/4. Everything on here so far seems to be quite straightforward. Definitely liking it. And then the smaller Allen wrench on there, that is for these bars right here. So if I want to attach these two right here, let's go ahead, put them both upside down, slide that into there. We're going to slide that right there. Now we're just going to go ahead and tighten them down. Make sure these are nice and tight next to each other. All right, so you can see these go together quite nice. Yeah, that feels like a smooth transition right there. There, there. Now let's just try this out. Get to lock in place. It feels nice and smooth. All right, so here's the battery I'm going to use with this. This is a 6 amp hour max output. They do recommend max output batteries. You're going to get the best performance with it. And this seems like a good overall size right here. And then right here we have the rapid charger. So if you're wondering how long it takes to charge this battery with this charger, this setup, it was right at an hour, like give or take a couple minutes. You know, I'm really curious to know what this sounds like. So let's put the battery in and just give her a try. Ready? All right, now some people might be wondering if this has a variable speed. It does not. It has one speed, and Ridgid said that's like the optimum speed for all different types of wood. So I know some people might be concerned if they have something really soft, like some really soft wood, they might burn it. But when I've used other track saws, I tend just to leave them on full power for the different types of work that I do. I don't know about you, if you would need to have a variable speed. If so, put a comment down below. I would like to know what type of situation you would use the slower speed on and how often you'd use it. So before we make an official cut with the track saw, I have these two sections right here that make up 55 inches, and I have this one piece right here that's 60 inches, and there's that bit of rubber right there. So we're gonna have to take the saw and do a score cut. So in order to do the scoring mark, you can see this is your depth adjustment. So that little arrow points that little white line right there, and there's a positive stop right there. So now when you push this down, it will just make a little score mark on this plywood. So then there's other times that you're going to want to use the scoring feature right here. So that's if you want to rip some plywood or some laminate or some veneer. If you do a score cut first, then go back again and cut it, you won't have that splintering. You'll just ensure the best quality cut. So let's start by trimming this one right here. This is just a scrap piece of plywood right here. On the other side, that's my expensive plywood, but this is hanging over, and the depth isn't going to be that far. I'll show you how deep the scoring cut is in a second. So right now this saw is gliding really nice. Some saws you'll notice a little bit of play, like in the front or in the back. These right here, you can dial these down to tighten it. So if you tighten them too much, then you can just see there's some resistance. So you want to have it so it's just at that point where it's freely moving. So that just helps to ensure like any wobble side to side. And then if you can see this right here, if you're wondering what that is something that will lock the saw into the track. So if you have the track clamped down, which we'll do in a minute for a bevel cut, that if you don't have that clamped down, you can see how that will pull out. If you do have that slid over, that will lock it in and then it won't come out. So bevel cuts, that's very important. All right, so now we're ready to install our battery and do our score cut. Okay, this is the piece right here. You can see it. That's the trim, and then there's all these little pieces right here that I'll have to clean up and get the vacuum. So I'm also going to show you how this hooks up to a dust collection system or shop vac in just a little bit. Yeah, that's interesting. This one really cuts it pretty close. There isn't that much rubber overhang. All right, so here you can see the depth of the score right there. So just a shallow cut that will help ensure no chip outs or splinters. So if you're wondering about the different size track setups that Ridgid has, so this is the one piece 60 inch. So you can see this works really well if you want to set up the track saw and cut 4 feet with it. So you have plenty of overhang over here and you have plenty of overhang on that side as well. If you want to use the two that come with it, these two tracks that are joined together, this is 55 inches. You still have plenty of room. Just show you that right there. So plenty of room right there to start it and plenty of room down here to finish it. It was a little over a week ago I made a shorts video on this right here, and people have been asking me a lot of questions such as when is this going to be released and how much. So I didn't have the information at the time, but now I did get some information that I can share with you. So on July 24th, there is going to be an announcement from Ridgid, and that will give you the official price on this, probably the accessories and the release date. But this is what I have for you. The price I've been given is $399, and I believe that will be this right here. So it wasn't very specific. So if I had to guess, I would say it's that. And then somewhere about a month later, this will be available in Home Depot. So I do plan to have in the future some coverage of the cornhole board building, but I'm mostly going to focus on the finishing parts of it because I already did make a video a little over a year ago showing how I built it with another track saw. So speaking of other track saws, I did have some people reach out to me wondering about the setups that this has and how the tracks or the rails compare. So let's take a look at that a second. All right, so right here I have some by Milwaukee, and then right here, the very first one I ever reviewed was by Bosch. The Bosch, they really lock in together nice, but they're definitely a lot smaller and lighter in weight, but still happy with the work that they do. So you can definitely see between the Ridgid and the Bosch, they're not even close being able to work with each other. Then if you look at the Ridgid compared to Milwaukee, these are definitely different as well. So the Ridgid saw only works on the Ridgid tracks, and the reason for that is they want you to have the most accurate cut possible, and the way they ensure it is by having you use the proper ones that fit this right here. All right, so now what we're going to do is test to see how accurate it is. So I have this marker, and I'm going to just make a 1/2 inch straight line right there. So we'll see between that line right there and going over here to that line right there, how close we can get it to perfect with this track right here. So I do have one clamp right here that I'm going to set up. I'm going to put it on this end. We're going to start from that end over there. So I'm going to set this up so that rubber strip goes right up on the edge of that line that I drew right there. That way, hopefully the thickness of the blade, the kerf, will completely take that line out. So I don't see a line right there. I don't see a line right there. Same on this end right there. There's no line. So I completely, precisely cut exactly where I want it to. That's awesome. Okay, so if we want to do a 45 bevel cut, we're going to loosen that. We're going to loosen this back here. And then this is free to swivel. So you can see right there, it'll go to 47. And if you want to go past 0 on this end right here to -1, that sometimes is what people do if they want to get something that gives you some tighter seams, like some flooring to the wall or some cabinetry. You can go to -1, and to do that, you push this back right here, and then you have to push down somewhat firm, and then I would go ahead and tighten the front and back as you're holding that down, and now it's set to -1. Now what we're going to do for the 45, we're going to lock this part in right there so it's locked into the track. We're going to loosen these and go to 45 right there. And we're going to have to adjust our depth. So let's just go down a little further. And this is what I always find very interesting when you cut a 45. Just look how amazingly accurate that is right there. All right, so the plan here is I'm going to do a complete rip cut right here. Everything's all lined up, and then this end right here is going to fall first because that's where I'm cutting first. It's going to hit this clamp right here, so that way this whole thing doesn't go to the ground before that end. So I think that'll just give us a better cut and it won't rip down there. All right. I love it when a plan comes together. Oakley, do you approve? Ah, yes. We have a nice clean cut there. I don't know how well you can see that. The one thing that Ridgid fans are really impressed with is the lifetime service agreement. So if you register your tools within 90 days, you'll qualify for that. So I think that's very impressive. So now that you've had a chance to see all the features of the saw right here, I'd like to know what you guys think about it and the price. And if you have any questions about it, please put them down below. I'll be happy to answer. And I may do some follow-up shorts videos on this as well, showing some other tests that I'll put it through. So if you want to find out more, all the specs, I'll put a link in the description for you. And if you're interested in seeing some other Ridgid tool videos, I have a short playlist I put together over here for you. So please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so yet. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.